What are teams doing?
Teams' losses and gains. So the Seattle Seahawks, we know that they lost their running back, and so we all think that that is a terrible loss for them. However, they picked up a running back 32nd overall, and there's a lot of talk that he's going to, you know, do that. They're going to, find ways, to give him the football. And I've just heard that he's going to, fit in that offense. So as for Seattle, I don't really think that it's too much of a loss. And so I think Seattle is going to be fine there. And you have to remember, it's not like the running back up till last season, their running backs really haven't, done, like, yeah, fairly decent, but not as, not like outstanding, I wouldn't say. But, last season he had an outstanding, I understand that he had an outstanding season. If you had him on fantasy, you pretty much, got a steal. And so that's really good. And then, so the Kansas City, I do would agree with anybody that says that Kansas City had gained somebody on they pretty much gained a weapon on offense. I do believe that he is going to help that offense. How much is he going to help that offense? Don't really know. You can't completely bank off of, one season of him, playing like a elite running back. But, I do believe that they, gained a little on that. Now, Kansas City, I don't know. I still wouldn't necessarily put them in the playoffs. But, that's just, my opinions there. And then the Philadelphia Eagles, you got to remember that, yes, okay, they lost their so-called top receiver, but they have, they have a receivers there. They got tight end there. They still have a running back, and they drafted a receiver. And so I really believe that the Philadelphia Eagles, they didn't lose or gain. I do believe, well, in fact, some can say that they probably have gained. And so you just gotta wait and see what the Philadelphia Eagles can do. But I don't think they're going any, like, they're going places. That's not what I meant to say, or from what I was saying. I don't think that they're going anywhere as far as terms as, like, they're not going to be dead last in their division.
Do I agree or disagree?
Do I agree or disagree? And I gotta say, this is another disagree. There was somebody, an analyst, that was saying that the Bills would win their division. They will be back on top, before The Patriots won the division, last season. They were, 5, straight or whatever seasons on top or whatever. And, congratulations, Bills. That, 5 seasons on top. But guess what? I gotta disagree with that analyst because the Patriots, they only got better on offense, and so you can say that that's a gain for the Patriots. But I left this segment because I, disagree with what was said. Now, I understand opinions are opinions, but I'm going to say their opinion is going to be wrong. Josh Allen, he's really good in the regular season, doesn't really has much to show for in the playoffs. I know this is about who's going to win the division, but you see it year in and year out. Josh Allen does really good, in the regular season. But beside that, I do not see the Bills retaking the crown this year. I see the crown once again in that division going to the Patriots. I'm not saying that the Patriots are going to go back to the Super Bowl, although that would be interesting is to see if they do go back to the Super Bowl, if this time it would be a different story. And so I just, my money would be on the Patriots. I mean, they just got better at, they got better. They completely got better on offense. And so how can, somebody, say that, well, the Buffalo Bills, yeah, they added they added more, but it's not like he made a whole lot of noise in Chicago. Yes, I do believe he's going to be a better fit for the Bills than he was for Chicago, and he might see more receptions possibly, but I do not buy more, actually helping the Bills more.
I'm coming unleashed.
Okay, so you can say that this is another disagreement, but this is Bewley Unleashed, and I am completely unleashed when, come on. The Rams are going to go back to a Super Bowl? Are you kidding me? They're going to go to a Super Bowl this season? Are you saying that they added pieces that they needed? Of course they added pieces that they needed. But you're going to sit there and say, oh, they added Garrett, and that makes them a Super Bowl Get out of here. Get out of here. That does not make them a Super Bowl contender. You know it. I know it. Their quarterback is old. Yes, we've seen Joe Flacco and we've seen Aaron Rodgers, continue to do their thing. And I'm sure Bradford's still gonna do, what but his back, he's got back issues. And, yeah, they still have, Davante Adams, they still got Puka, their offense is still gonna do what their offense can do. But look, they got to deal with Seattle. Seattle is not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. And in fact, the San Francisco 49ers are relevant again. Boom, mic drop right there. They're once again going to be relevant. They added Mike Evans. Yes, he's, kind of aging, but he's still, I believe he can still do his thing. They still got McCaffrey. They still got Kittle. They got weapons. So San Francisco, look for San Francisco to at least make it a problem for the Rams. It's going to be a tough, other than, Arizona, I don't have, much hope for them there, but are you kidding me? I mean, between those three teams, it's going to be a duel for the crown in that division. And I don't know. I think that Seattle possibly could go back-to-back Super Bowls appearances at the very least. And so to say that the Rams are going to go, I mean, please, you think that Garrett is going to do better on the Rams than what he did on the Browns? I know that the Browns are not that good of a franchise, and the Rams right now are a better franchise. They're a better team, but give me a break. If he does better, it's not gonna be, significantly better where he's going to just bring the Rams to the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? Secondly, okay, Kyler Murray is probably going to start for the Vikings, but do you think that he's going to lead the Vikings to get the crown in the NFC North? Do you think that he's going to lead the Vikings to the playoffs? No, I do not think. He has been irrelevant. I mean, he only had, how many good seasons has he had? And he's been not irrelevant. Getting tongue-tied over here, but he's not been relevant at all. And so, yeah, he gives the Vikings legs. He can do things with his legs, but oh my goodness, are you serious? You're gonna bank on him? On Kyler Murray? You're gonna say that if he starts, I mean, they might have a better season, but oh, come on. Are you telling me that their locker room would prefer to have Kyler Murray? Because one, I don't agree with Kyler Murray. I don't think he's going to do diddly squat. And then it depends on, the locker room. And I can see where the locker room might prefer Kyler Murray over their other quarterback, McCarthy. But however, get out of here with the Vikings, making it back to the playoffs and all that, jazz. That's just, should I give a second to kind of put up the stats when he was. And yeah, you can say that the Vikings have been more relevant than the Cardinals, but I mean, come on, that's just ridiculous to say that. Here's a quarterback that has not been relevant for quite a few years, and to say that, and yes, we have seen quarterbacks, like Baker Mayfield go to the Buccaneers, and he's doing excellent. We have seen that. I do not see that happening for Kyler Murray. Sorry, that's just not gonna happen.
Time for fantasy football.
Finally, fantasy football. I have one tip for you. Draft some rookies. Don't, pass up on rookies, especially receivers. Because I do have to say that at any position that I will say has, gotten better over the years, more talented over the years, is the wide receiver position and running back position, but mostly the receiver position year in and year out has just gotten more athletic, more talented, being able to do more with the receivers. They're able to line up, anywhere and be able to be a slot receiver, deep threat, whatever it is. These receivers have become, really, really talented, route running receivers. You can put them in the deep threat. You can use them in the red zone, at the goal line. You can use them in the slot. You can use them, wherever. They're just becoming ridiculously athletic. And so do not be afraid to draft a rookie, especially a rookie receiver. I remember 2024 season, I drafted Neighbors, and he's one of the reasons why. Now, yes, despite that I had Jamar Chase and also Joe Burrow, Neighbors is one of the reasons why I won the fantasy league that I was in 2024. Now, he was a complete bust last season because he got injured. This season, what is he going to do after his, coming back from his injury? But as a rookie, he actually did, fairly decent for my team. And he's one of the reasons why I did so good. And so don't be afraid to draft a rookie, especially if they're a lot of analysts, fantasy analysts that are very, very hot on, this rookie or that rookie. Pay attention to that, because they could be correct. He actually could, help your team, get to the playoffs, or help your team, win everything. Don't be afraid to take a rookie this season.